Hello and welcome back to the reading for Judges, chapters 13 through 16. Let us begin. Chapter 13. Philistines subdue Israel. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and he delivered them into the hands of the Philistines 40 years. An angel foretells the birth of Samson. Now there was a certain man of Sarah, and of the race of Dan, whose name was Manu, and his wife was barren. And an angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, Thou art barren and without children, but thou shalt conceive and bear a son. Now therefore beware, and drink no wine nor strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing, because thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall touch his head, for he shall be a Nazarite of God, from his infancy and from his mother's womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel from the hands of the Philistines. And when she was come to her husband, she said to him, A man of God came to me, having the countenance of an angel, very awful. And when I asked him who he was, and whence he came, and by what name he was called, he would not tell me. But he answered thus, Behold, thou shalt conceive and bear a son. Beware, thou drink no wine, nor strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. For the child shall be a Nazarite of God from his infancy, from his mother's womb, until the day of his death. The angel reappears to Manu's wife. Then Manu prayed to the Lord, and said, I beseech thee, O Lord. The Manu prayed to the Lord and said, I beseech thee, O Lord, that the man of God whom thou didst send may come again and teach us what we ought to do concerning the child that should be born. And the Lord heard the prayer of Manu, and the angel of the Lord appeared again to his wife as she was sitting in the field. But Manu, her husband, was not with her. And when she saw the angel, she made haste and ran to her husband, and told him, saying, Behold, the man hath appeared to me, whom I saw before. The angel instructs Manu. He rose up and followed his wife, and coming to the man, said to him, Art thou he that spoke to the woman? And he answered, I am. And Manu said to him, When thy word shall come to pass, what wilt thou that the child should do? Or from what shall he keep himself? And the angel of the Lord said to Manu, From all the things I have spoken to thy wife, let her refrain herself. Chapter 13, verse 13. Let her refrain. In the Latin text it is not clear whether this abstinence was prescribed to the mother or to the child, but the Hebrew, in which the verbs relating thereto are of the feminine gender, determines it to be the mother. But then the child also was to refrain from like things, because from his infancy he was to be a Nazarite of God. That is, one set aside in a particular manner and consecrated to God. The Nazarites, by law, were to abstain from all these things. Resuming with verse 14. And let her eat nothing that cometh of the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing, and whatsoever I have commanded her, let her fulfill and observe. Manu's sacrifice. And Manu said to the angel of the Lord, I beseech thee to consent to my request, and let us dress a kid for thee. And the angel answered him, If thou press me, I will not eat of thy bread, but if thou wilt offer a holocaust offered to the Lord. And Manu knew not it was the angel of the Lord. And he said to him, What is thy name, that if thy word shall come to pass, we may honor thee? And he answered him, Why askest thou my name, which is wonderful? Then Manu took a kid of the flocks and the libations, and put them upon a rock, offering to the Lord, who doth wonderful things. And he and his wife looked on. The angel ascends in a flame. And when the flame from the altar went up towards heaven, the angel of the Lord ascended also in the flame. And when Manu and his wife saw this, they fell flat on the ground, and the angel of the Lord appeared to them no more. And forthwith Manu understood that it was an angel of the Lord. And he said to his wife, We shall certainly die, because we have seen God. Verse 22. Seeing God, not in his own person, but in the person of his messenger. The Israelites in those days imagined they should die if they saw an angel, perhaps because of those words spoken by the Lord to Moses, which was from Exodus chapter 33, verse 20. For man shall not see me and live. But the event demonstrated that it was but a groundless imagination. Resuming with verse 23. Verse 23. And his wife answered him, If the Lord had a mind to kill us, he would not have received a holocaust and libations at our hands. Neither would he have showed us all these things, nor have told us the things that are to come. Birth of Samson. And she bore a son, and called his name Samson. And the child grew, and the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to be with him in the camp of Dan, between Sarah and Ethel. Chapter 14. Samson desires a Philistine wife. Then Samson went down to Timnath, and seeing there a woman of the daughters of the Philistines, he came up and told his father and his mother, saying, I saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines, I beseech you, Take her for me to wife. And his father and mother said to him, Is there no woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or among all of my people, that thou wilt take a wife of the Philistines who are uncircumcised? And Samson said to his father, Take this woman for me, for she hath pleased my eyes. Chapter 14, verse 3. Is there no woman among the daughters of thy brethren? This shows his parents were at first against his marriage with a Gentile, it being prohibited. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 3. Afterwards they consented, knowing it to be by the dispensation of God, otherwise it would have been sinful. Resuming with verse 4. Now his parents knew not that the thing was done by the Lord, and that he sought an occasion against the Philistines. For that time the Philistines had dominion over Israel. Samson kills a lion. Then Samson went down with his father and mother to Timnath. And when they were come to the vineyards of the town, behold, a young lion met him, raging and roaring. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson, and he tore the lion as he would have torn a kid in pieces, having nothing at all in his hand. And he would not tell this to his father and mother. And he went down and spoke to the woman that had pleased his eyes. Samson finds honey in the lion's mouth. And after some days, returning to take her, he went aside to see the carcass of the lion. Behold, there was a swarm of bees in the mouth of the lion, and a honeycomb. When he had taken it in his hands, he went on eating. And coming to his father and mother, he gave them of it, and they ate. But he would not tell them that he had taken the honey from the body of the lion. Samson's wedding feast. So his father went down to the woman, and made a feast for his son Samson, for so the young men used to do. And when the citizens of that place saw him, they brought him 30 companions to be with him. Samson's riddle. And Samson said to them, I will propose to you a riddle, which if you declare unto me within the 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 shirts and as many coats. But if you shall not be able to declare it, you shall give me 30 shirts and the same number of coats. They answered him, Put forth the riddle, that we may hear it. And he said to them, Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness, and they could not in 3 days expound the riddle. They answered Samson's riddle. And when the 7th day came, they said to the wife of Samson, Soothe thy husband, and persuade him to tell thee what the riddle meaneth. But if thou wilt not do it, we will burn thee in thy father's house. Have you called us to the wedding on purpose to strip us? So she wept before Samson and complained, saying, Thou hatest me, and dost not love me. Therefore thou wilt not expound to me the riddle which thou hast proposed to the sons of my people. But he answered, I would not tell it to my father and mother, and how can I tell it to thee? So she wept before him the 7 days of the feast. And at length on the 7th day, as she was troublesome to him, he expounded it, and she immediately told her countrymen. And they on the 7th day, before the sun went down, said to him, What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion? And he said to them, If you had not plowed with my heifer, you had not found out my riddle. Samson slays 30 men. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he went down to Ascalon, and slew there 30 men, whose garments he took away, and gave to them that he had declared the riddle. And being exceeding angry, he went up to his father's house. But his wife took one of his friends and bridal companions for her husband. Chapter 15. Samson is denied his wife. And a while after, when the days of the wheat harvest were at hand, Samson came, meaning to visit his wife, and he brought her a kid of the flock. And when he would have gone into her chamber as usual, her father would not suffer him, saying, I thought thou hast hated her, and therefore I gave her to thy friend. But she hath a sister who is younger and fairer than she. Take her to wife instead of her. And Samson answered him, From this day I shall be blameless in what I do against the Philistines, for I will do you evils. Samson burns the Philistines' corn. And he went and caught 300 foxes, and coupled them tail to tail, and fastened torches between the tails. Chapter 15, verse 4. Foxes. Being judge of the people, he might have many to assist him to catch with nets, or otherwise to number these animals, of which there were great numbers in that country. Resuming with verse 5. And setting them on fire, he let the foxes go, that they might run about hither and thither. And they presently went into the standing corn of the Philistines, which being set on fire, both the corn that was already carried together, and that which was standing, was all burnt, insomuch that the flame consumed also the vineyards and the oliveyards. Philistines burned Samson's wife. Then the Philistines said, Who hath done this thing? And it was answered, Samson, the son-in-law of the Ammonite, because he took away his wife and gave her to another, hath done these things. And the Philistines went up and burnt both the woman and her father. Samson's revenge. But Samson said to them, Although you have done this, yet will I be revenged of you, and then I will be quiet. And he made a great slaughter of them, so that in astonishment they laid the calf of the leg upon the thigh, and going down he dwelt in a cavern of the rock Etam. Samson is delivered to the Philistines. Then the Philistines, going up into the land of Judah, camped in the place which afterwards they called Leski, that is the jawbone, where their army was spread. And the men of the tribe of Judah said to them, Why are you come up against us? They answered, We are come to bind Samson, and to pay him for what he hath done against us. Wherefore 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cave of the rock Etam, and said to Samson, Knowest thou not that the Philistines rule over us? Why wouldst thou do thus? And he said to them, As they did to me, so have I done to them. And they said to him, We are come to bind thee, and to deliver thee into the hands of the Philistines. And Samson said to them, Swear to me, and promise me, that you will not kill me. They said, We will not kill thee, but we will deliver thee up bound. And they bound him with 2 new cords, and brought him from the rock Etam. Samson slays 1,000 men. And now when he was coming to the place of the jawbone, and the Philistines shouting went to meet him, the Spirit of the Lord came strongly upon him, and as the flax is wont to be consumed at the approach of fire, so the bands with which he was bound were broken and loosed. And finding a jawbone, even the jawbone of an ass which lay there, catching it up, he slew therewith 1,000 men. And he said, With the jawbone of an ass, with the jaw of the colt of asses, I have destroyed them, and have slain 1,000 men. And when he had ended these words singing, he threw the jawbone out of his hand, and called the name of that place Ramathechlai, which is interpreted, the lifting up of the jawbone. Samson judges Israel 20 years. And being very thirsty, he cried to the Lord, and said, Thou hast given this very great deliverance and victory into the hand of thy servant. And behold, I die for thirst, and shall fall into the hands of the uncircumcised. Then the Lord opened a great tooth in the jaw of the ass, and waters issued out of it. And when he had drank them, he refreshed his spirit and recovered his strength. Therefore the name of that place was called the spring of him that invoked from the jawbone until this present day. And he judged Israel in the days of the Philistines 20 years. Chapter 16. Samson carries away the gate of Gaza. He went also into Gaza, and saw there a woman, or harlot, and went in unto her. And when the Philistines had heard this, and it was noised about among them that Samson was come to the city, they surrounded him, setting guards at the gate of the city, and watching there all the night in silence, that in the morning they might kill him as he went out. But Samson slept till midnight, and then rising, he took both the doors of the gate, with the post thereof, and the bolt, and laying them on his shoulders, carried them up to the top of the hill, which looketh towards Hebron. Delilah bribed to delude Samson. After this he loved a woman, who dwelt in the valley of Sorek, and she was called Delilah. Chapter 16, verse 4, Delilah. Some are of the opinion she was married to Samson, others that she was his harlot. If the latter opinion be true, we cannot wonder that in punishment of his lust, the Lord delivered him up, by her means, into the hands of his enemies. However, if he was guilty, it is not to be doubted that under his afflictions he heartily repented and returned to God, and so obtained forgiveness of his sins. Resuming with verse 5. And the princes of the Philistines came to her and said, Deceive him, and learn of him wherein his great strength lieth, and how we may be able to overcome him, to bind and afflict him. Which if thou shalt do, we will give thee every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver. Samson reveals his secret, and Delilah said to Samson, Tell me, I beseech thee, wherein thy greatest strength lieth, and what it is wherewith. If thou wert bound, thou couldst not break loose. Samson answered her, If I shall be bound with 7 cords made of sinews not yet dry, but still moist, I shall be weak like other men. And the princes of the Philistines brought unto her 7 cords, such as he spoke of, with which she bound him. Men lying privately in wait with her, and in the chamber, expecting the event of the thing. And she cried out to him, The Philistines are upon thee, Samson. And he broke the bands, and as a man would break a thread of tow twined with spittle when it smelleth the fire, so it was not known wherein his strength lay. Delilah said to him, Behold, thou hast mocked me, and hast told me a false thing. But now at least tell me wherewith thou mayst be found. And he answered her, If I shall be bound with new ropes that were never in work, I shall be weak and like other men. Delilah bound him again with these, and cried out, The Philistines are upon thee, Samson. There be an ambush prepared for him in this chamber. But he broke the bands like threads of webs. And Delilah said to him again, How long dost thou deceive me, and tell me lies? Show me wherewith thou mayest be bound. And Samson answered her, If thou platest the 7 locks of my head with lace, and tying them round about a nail, fastenest it in the ground, I shall be weak. And when Delilah had done this, she said to him, The Philistines are upon thee, Samson. And waking out of his sleep, he drew out the nail with the hairs and the lace. And Delilah said to him, How dost thou sayest thou lovest me, when thy mind is not with me? Thou hast told me lies these 3 times, and wouldst not tell me wherein thy great strength lieth. And when she pressed him much, and continually hung upon him for many days, giving him no time to rest, his soul fainted away, and was wearied, even until death. Then opening the truth of the thing, he said to her, The razor hath never come upon my head, for I am a Nazarite. That is to say, consecrated to God from my mother's womb. If my head be shaven, my strength shall depart from me, and I shall become weak, and shall be like other men. Samson is seized and blinded. Then, seeing that he had discovered to her all his mind, she sent up the princes of the Philistines, saying, Come up this once more, for now he hath opened his heart to me. And they went up, taking with them the money which they had promised. But she made him sleep upon her knees, and lay his head in her bosom. And she called a barber, and shaved his 7 locks, and began to drive him away, and thrust him from her, for immediately his strength departed from him. And she said, The Philistines repent thee, Samson. Waking from sleep, he said in his mind, I will go out as I did before, and shake myself, not knowing that the Lord was departed from him. Then the Philistines seized upon him, and forthwith pulled out his eyes, and led him bound in chains to Gaza, and shutting him up in prison, made him grind. The Philistines feasted Dagon. And now his hair began to grow again. And the princes of the Philistines assembled together, to offer great sacrifices to Dagon their god, and to make merry, saying, Our God hath delivered our enemy Samson into our hands. And the people also seeing this praised their God, and said the same, Our God hath delivered our adversary into our hands, him that destroyed our country, and killed very many. And rejoicing in their feast, when they had now taken their good cheer, they commanded that Samson should be called, and should play before them. And being brought out of prison, he played before them, and they made him stand between 2 pillars. The death of Samson. And he said to the lad that guided his steps, Suffer me to touch the pillars which support the whole house, and let me lean upon them, and rest a little. Now the house was full of men and women, and all the princes of the Philistines were there. Moreover, about 3,000 persons of both sexes from the roof and the higher part of the house were beholding Samson's play. But he called upon the Lord, saying, O Lord God, remember me, and restore to me now my former strength. O my God, that I may revenge myself on my enemies, and for the loss of my 2 eyes I may take one revenge. Verse 28. Clarification. Revenge myself. This desire of revenge was out of zeal for justice against the enemies of God and his people, and not out of private rancor and malice of heart. Resuming with verse 29. Laying hold on both the pillars on which the house rested, and holding the one with his right hand, and the other with his left, he said, Let me die with the Philistines. And when he had strongly shook the pillars, the house fell upon all the princes, and the rest of the multitude that was there, and he killed many more at his death than he had killed before in his life. Verse 30, clarification. Let me die, literally, let my soul die. Samson did not sin on this occasion, though he was indirectly the cause of his own death, because he was moved to what he did by a particular inspiration of God, who also concurred with him by a miracle in restoring his strength upon the spot, in consequence of his prayer. Samson, by so dying, was a figure of Christ, who by his death overcame all his enemies. Resuming with verse 31. And his brethren and all of the kindred, going down, took his body and buried it, between Sarah and Eshthol, in the burying place of his father Menu, and he judged Israel 20 years. Thank you for joining me for Judges chapters 13, 14, 15, and 16. Join me next week as we read Judges chapters 17, 18, 19, and 20. Once again, thank you. We'll actually finish the book of... yes, and 21. We will finish the book of Judges next week, so we'll do that as well as 21. Thank you very much for joining me. You make sure that you all have a wonderful week, and God bless.